From the Cronkite Studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
More victims of domestic violence are coming forward. In the wake of the Me Too movement, how are the shelters dealing with the spike?
Plus, Arizona lawmakers agree on a plan to balance drought and water supplies in the Colorado River Basin. But is it enough to satisfy federal leaders?
And with sports gambling expanding across the country and the possibility of it coming to our state, what's Las Vegas doing to maintain its dominance?
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Gabriela Becerra.
And I'm Austin Burnett. Thank you for joining us.
The Me Too movement might be helping victims find the courage to get help. In 2018, the National Domestic Violence Hotline reported a 30% increase in calls, and Arizona is no exception.
Last fiscal year, the state's Safe Domestic Violence Services Hotline answered about 28% more calls than in the previous year. Sammy Gabers reports, as more and more people reach out, beds in domestic violence shelters are consistently full.
How was your day?
Leslie Evans' days are devoted to taking care of her 4 children.
Mornings are crazy because everybody gets up at different times. Are you going to be behind on your homework?
Going to and from school and helping out at her church in Phoenix.
How are you?
Even though life can be hectic for the single mother of 4, it's filled with happiness.
Thank you, Father.
But it wasn't always that way.
And so if you can look at my children's faces, they're just sad. They don't seem content. My oldest daughter, I think he was choking me. We called the cops, and the cops were interviewing her. And she's like 6, she's little. And she said, my daddy's choking my mommy.
Evans and her children left her husband at the time. That's when they turned to a shelter in Tucson for domestic violence victims.
I believe it was my stepping stone to freedom. It was where I first got some knowledge and realized that what was happening wasn't right.
Evans says she was so consumed with saving a broken relationship, she neglected what was important in her life, her kids.
You know, this is the sad part. I was very consumed by him, and so unfortunately, I don't think there was well taken care of as I should have been.
The plaque hanging on her living room wall, given to her by that shelter in Tucson, shows us just how far she's come.
The swing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Renee Olson would tell you a similar story. Right now, she and her children are staying in transitional housing for domestic violence victims.
It's just a place where we all feel safe. It's gated, it has security cameras.
Olson spent months trying to get into a shelter after a violent relationship.
Every shelter had a big, long waiting list, so that really, hinged me in even leaving my abuser in the first place.
What are you guys doing?
She said it took a long time to get her and her children into transitional housing. In Maricopa County, more and more people are reaching out for help and using the Domestic Violence Services Hotline. But there are actually 150 less shelter beds than there were in 2016. The 450 now are almost always full, and transitional housing units have wait lists.
Although the emergency shelter services are still available, there just isn't enough beds to meet the need.
Cindy Patterson helps run a service for domestic violence victims 50 and older. She said that funding isn't there to provide for enough shelter beds, but there are more community-based programs for those in need.
There are protection plans in place that any community-based program can assist someone, a victim seeking services.
You have the right to be happy. You have the right to control your life.
And because she reached out for help, Olson is now the one in charge of her own life.
You ready to be done on the swings?
No! Although maybe not of her 3-year-old at times.
Okay, jeez.
In Phoenix, Sammy Gabers, Cronkite News.
Even though there are less domestic violence shelter beds than years before, Cindy Patterson said that community-based programs are reaching more people than ever. To learn more about the services in Maricopa County, you can call 480-890-3039.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials say they've made the biggest fentanyl bust in history. They've seized nearly $5 million worth of drugs near Nogales, including 245 pounds of fentanyl. Hidden inside a tractor trailer, the trailer was transporting cucumbers from Mexico. Also on the border was 395 pounds of methamphetamine. The 26-year-old driver is now in custody and facing charges of possession with intent to distribute.
1 kilogram of fentanyl produces 1 million fatal doses.
Our CBP officers were able to stop an enormous amount of opioids.
The federal government says more work needs to be done to ensure the future of water in the Colorado River. That's despite Arizona lawmakers signing off on a multi-state drought plan last night to make sure water levels at Lake Mead and along the river don't hit critical lows. Cronkite News reporter Lillian Donahue has the latest.
We are getting closer, but we are still not done. That's what Federal Bureau of Reclamation Commissioner Brenda Berman said this morning on a call with reporters about the status of the drought contingency plan. Last night, Arizona legislators passed the plan that aims to combat water shortages across the Colorado River and invest in sustainable infrastructure. But that wasn't enough. Federal government officials say that the holdup is mainly in California, where negotiations continue. Arizona also has some loose ends to tie up with local and tribal officials. The government is prepared to step in, something both water experts and the Bureau's commissioner says is not ideal.
The kind of the last thing we want is uncertainty. It's always better in water to kind of have control over your destiny than rely on a person who runs a federal agency to call the shots.
We are highly concerned that continued delays regarding adoption of the DCPs inappropriately increases risk for all that rely on the waters of the Colorado River.
The Bureau of Reclamation has already started to plan by asking for input from the governors of the 7 states in the Colorado River Basin. If California and Arizona don't finalize negotiations and completely sign on to the drought contingency plan by March 4th, the government will take over the process. In the broadcast center, Lillian Donahue, Cronkite News.
This month marks 100 years since the Grand Canyon was named a national park. However, with another government shutdown looming, the centennial celebration might be in jeopardy. President Donald Trump has said the next shutdown could start before President's Day weekend. That's only 1 week before the Grand Canyon's main centennial celebration, scheduled for February 26th. The pressure of preparing for a shutdown while trying to clean up from the previous one could lead to a cancellation.
Reservations for Havasupai Falls Camp Spaces opened today, sparking a social media firestorm, and many took to Twitter saying they're unhappy with the new reservation system. Claudia in Flagstaff tweeted, "Made it through the processing payment page after 41 minutes, and then the website crashes. Will I ever go to Havasupai?" Abraham posted this GIF with the caption, "I don't know, guys. I don't know how much longer I can do this. I'm starting to feel the despair setting in." Carmelisa shared this same sentiment, saying, "Havasupai open registration got me like this." And finally, Jess got to do a little bragging after the site worked for her, tweeting, "Finally got reservations for Havasupai."
Arizona has thousands of old mines that have been abandoned. But as Cronkite News reporter Cammie Clark explains, bats and other animals use these mines as homes. So the challenge is to preserve their habitat while also keeping people safe.
It's no easy task to build gates for mines.
Let's say the bats are using the site and you want to protect the wildlife also. Then we build grates. Basically, it's like a steel with, usually it's a 6-inch gap between the bars. 6 inches is a nice size for flying for certain species of bats that live in Arizona.
And this makes Joel Diamond happy. He researches bats that live in abandoned mines.
In Arizona, we have 28 bat species, and we manage these abandoned mines as bat habitat. Unfortunately, some of these abandoned mines are also a public nuisance. They're also dangerous features.
Since 1969, at least 35 people have died in abandoned mines in Arizona. That's according to the Arizona State Mine Inspector's Office. Diamond says these old mines are often unstable and have bad air quality. Signs like this help warn of the dangers, but they don't keep everyone out.
We've also developed 3 additional methods: a modified culvert gate, spider wire, and an installed rebar grate. These 3 methodologies are more cost effective. I can put a lot more gates in an area, protect a lot more habitat for humans and for the biological value for bats.
That's where Gilliland comes in. Federal agencies, including the Bureau of Land Management, contract with him to make these gates. Usually it takes a week to install, but some of these installations, he says, stand out.
We did something by Buckeye where we had killer bees attacking us while we're building the gate. So we're wearing complete bee suits while we're building the gates. That happened also south of Tucson too.
But Diamond says these risks are worth it because bats play a key role in Arizona's ecosystem.
If you disturb a bat colony, oftentimes it'll lead to the collapse of that bat colony. So be nice to them. They're like little flying monkeys. For a band of mines, stay out, stay alive.
Gilliland says that he's made approximately 250 mine gates so far and is currently working on a project in New Mexico. In Prescott, Cammie Clark, Cronkite News.
Some of the bat species in Arizona, such as the Mexican long-tongued bat, pollinate desert plants like agave, while the lesser long-nosed bats help pollinate saguaros, according to the National Park Service. For continuing coverage on Arizona's abandoned mines and what's being done to ensure people's safety, just head to our website, cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
A deep freeze has blanketed a chunk of the U.S. for most of the week. The good news is the temperatures are starting to warm up for the weekend.
But parts of the Northeast are seeing snow with these cold temps. Cronkite News reporter Bryce Newberry is on assignment in Baltimore and joins us now with a look at what he's experiencing.
We're in Baltimore on assignment, and it's hard not to notice just how cold it is here. It's 17 degrees right now. It feels like 8 degrees. And take a look. The wind is blowing the snow in this direction. It only started snowing a little bit ago, and it's only going to snow for the next couple of hours. Not expected to pile up too much. But the city has been under a code blue for the last couple of days. That's because it was so cold here. That's the polar vortex that's moving across the Northeast and keeping everywhere so cold. So the blue alert was supposed to lift this morning, and it's still scheduled to. It's so cold, it seems like it should stay in effect, but it's very cold here, and the blue alert just meant that people who might not have a home had places to go to stay warm and safe in these really cold temperatures. So we're going to keep working on our assignment. Just wanted to let you know how cold it is here in Baltimore. So for now, I'm Bryce Newberry, Cronkite News.
Wow, no hat, no gloves, no earmuffs. Hopefully Bryce is staying warm out there.
Yeah, well, we've been warm here, but Bain, what's the temperatures looking like over the weekend, and when are we going to see rain next?
Oh my gosh, I almost feel bad complaining about the rain after seeing Bryce out there in the snow.
Yeah, I know.
But we are going to be seeing some rain this weekend, but right now we're seeing temperatures of about 72 degrees right now, 7-mile-per-hour winds, and just a little bit of cloud coverage. But for the rest of the night, we're going to be seeing temperatures drop around 6 p.m., 70 degrees, and then around 10 p.m. we're going to be seeing temperatures drop as low as 63. So if you're heading out tonight, definitely prepare for the little bit of a chill. And then tomorrow we're going to be seeing 57 degrees at around 8 a.m. And then the temperatures are going to increase up until 4 p.m. We're going to see a high of 69 degrees. And for the rest of the week, for the next couple of days, we're going to be seeing a little bit of cloud coverage. Sunday, there's a chance of rain. So if you have any plans to be outside for Super Bowl Sunday, be sure to plan accordingly. As we continue throughout the rest of the week, Tuesday, we're going to continue to see some rain possibilities, but on Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to see some sunshine. Friday, we're going to get that cloud coverage back up again. As the week continues, our temperatures are going to decrease down to 63 degrees.
Sunday is the first Super Bowl since a U.S. Supreme Court ruling allowing states not named Nevada to legalize sports gambling. 7 states joined the gambling mecca in allowing sports wagers inside their borders, and Arizona could enter that pool in the coming months.
Taylor Rocha joins us with more and how Las Vegas is managing its first year in legal competition.
Last week, Arizona Republican State Senator Sonny Borelli introduced Senate Bill 1158. It would allow any federally recognized tribe in the state with a tribal state gaming compact to operate a sports gambling operation. It could mean even more competition for Las Vegas, but as I learned when I went to Las Vegas last weekend, sportsbooks are not worried about the new kids on the block. The Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority expects more than 300,000 people this weekend for the Super Bowl.
It's the next best thing to going to the game. Probably in a lot of ways it's better than going to the game.
And until this year, the state of Nevada was the only game in town when it came to making legal wagers on sporting events. But a May U.S. Supreme Court ruling opened the door to states legalizing sports gambling. 7 states so far have bet big on gambling's future, creating competition for Sin City.
Well, I've seen what some of these other jurisdictions have done, and I think the best I could say is they've done okay, but I don't think any of them have come anywhere near what Las Vegas has done.
The Convention and Visitors Authority said the state brought in nearly $159 million in Super Bowl bets in 2018, up 13% from the year before. John Murray, director of race and sport operations at the world's biggest sports book, the Westgate Superbook, expects that trend to continue.
So far, it's been business as usual. So many people come to Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. It's such a huge event in Las Vegas. I think as states like Arizona, California get sports betting, they're going to steal away some of our Super Bowl business for sure, but we haven't really seen that yet. New Jersey's so far away. I don't think that many people on the East Coast were making a separate trip here just for the Super Bowl.
The way we look at it, having more sports books and more people that will be comfortable with legalized gambling, we feel that would grow the market.
Ben Miller, the president and CEO of the American Gaming Association, said, quote, "The interest in legal regulated sports betting in the United States has never been higher, and a survey conducted by Morning Consult backs him up. 1 in 10 American adults plan to bet on Sunday's game, projecting a record $6 billion in Super Bowl wagers, $1 billion more than last year." Taylor Rocha, Cronkite News.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us. For top Arizona stories at any time, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
And stick around. After the break, a look back at this week's top stories on Cronkite News, including high-tech digital license plates coming to Arizona roads, a group rallying at the Capitol for patients with chronic pain to have easier access to opioids without being treated like addicts, and the game of pickleball taking over Tempe. Don't go away.
Arizona joins California in offering the option to buy digital license plates rather than having a sheet of metal. Drivers can now have an LCD screen on the back of their vehicle. Reporter Gabrielle Bacara tells us more about the functionality of digital license plates.
These new plates are called R-Plate digital license plates, and they're being compared to a tablet device for their LTE wireless connection capabilities. I spoke to ADOT earlier today to find out exactly what the new features of these digitized license plates can offer to Arizona drivers.
Arizona is the second state to do this, so we're very much on the cutting edge.
The LCD plates are able to be customized and display personal messages and notifications. Doug Nick, MVD spokesperson, says this tool can also be beneficial for law enforcement.
If the plate had a message below stolen, well, obviously law enforcement is going to be able to use that very easily as a tool to find a stolen vehicle. Or if it's invalid, the registration needs to be renewed. That's something that law enforcement is also interested in.
Last year, ADOT tested these digital plates on about a dozen of their maintenance vehicles across the state.
We wanted to see how they do, obviously, to sun exposure, to heat, to cold, ice, rain, everything that motorists in Arizona encounter. We put these plates through, and the current iteration that is being authorized to be sold by Reviver is one that we felt was robust enough to handle those things.
The plates are now available for pre-order from Reviver Auto, starting at $499 for the Essential Arizona R-Plate and $799 for the Pro Arizona R-Plate. ADOT will not be receiving any proceeds from the sales of these digitized license plates. They can be purchased online from Reviver Auto or from participating resellers. Live in downtown Phoenix, Gabriella Becerra, Cronkite News.
So we want to hear from you now. With the cost of digital license plates ranging from $500 to $800, would you pay for one? Just go to our Cronkite News Twitter feed to vote in our live interactive poll. Nearly 200 of you have voted so far, with the majority of you saying no.
A movement created by one woman in Rhode Island is now a nationwide effort. It's called Don't Punish Pain. Cronkite News reporter Jennifer Alvarez went to the Arizona State Capitol this morning to find out why people are rallying.
Don't Punish Pain is a nationwide effort that supports opioids for pain treatment and demands that chronically ill patients or people with severe pain aren't left out. Some people this morning saying they even felt discriminated against for not being granted the same access to opioids that they used to have. One story after another, after another.
If I could give them one minute or even 1 hour of the pain that I lived through, I think that they could maybe understand a little bit more.
Each one a story about physical pain and a plea for justice in the fight for opioid prescriptions. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say opioid pain medications have serious risks. And according to the Arizona Department of Health Services, from June 2017 to now, there have been over 16,000 suspected overdoses from opioids in our state. In 2016, the CDC created guidelines for opioid prescriptions, and last May, Governor Doug Ducey pushed through legislation to more regulate prescriptions. And the people here claim that these guidelines have negatively impacted their access to the treatment that they need.
If I didn't feel like my quality of life and that of my friends and the man that I love and live with were in literal danger, I wouldn't be here.
They say even doctors have been affected.
The doctors are scared. I really, truly believe that they're scared.
And they want action.
I want Arizona state law to take away the arbitrary delineation, demanding that chronic pain patients with established records and no missed pill counts or anything choose between medical marijuana or narcotics.
Protests were held at major cities across the U.S., and ultimately, these people just hope that someone will listen and make a change. Live in the Broadcast Center, Jennifer Alvarez, Cronkite News.
A new proposal could loosen Arizona's medical marijuana laws. Senator Sonny Borrelli from District 5 is pushing to extend the state's certification for medical marijuana cards from 1 year to 2. After the first 2 years, certifications would go back to lasting 1 year, but with the renewal fees cut from $150 to $50. Borrelli has also proposed Senate Bill 1137 that would give the Arizona Department of Agriculture $2 million to begin testing marijuana sold at state dispensaries.
Time is up for Arizona legislators to come to a decision on how to use less water. It's part of a multi-state effort to combat water shortages across the Colorado River Basin, which encompasses 7 states, including Arizona.
Arizona is the last state to sign off on what's called the Drought Contingency Plan. The plan will manage water usage from the Colorado River reservoirs and invest in longer-term infrastructure. This will make sure the state's largest source of water doesn't hit a critical low. If lawmakers can't agree, the federal government will step in to decide how to keep enough water in reservoirs like Lake Mead.
Cronkite News reporter Lillian Donahue has been following this story and went to Pinal County to talk to some of the people who will be most affected by the plan.
All this water from the Colorado River has had quite the journey. Well over 300 miles of it in the Central Arizona Project Canal System. It can take up to 7 days for this water to go from the Colorado River to Pinal County, where I'm standing, the heart of Arizona's agriculture.
Corn and grains and pretty much a lot of what you'd expect here in Pinal County as far as crops.
Brian Rhodes owns the expansive A&B farms near Eloy, Arizona, about an hour southeast of Phoenix.
We've grown this farming operation pretty much from scratch. I mean, we're farming 15,000 plus acres today.
His most critical resource cuts through his alfalfa fields. The Central Arizona Project carries over 1.5 million acre feet of water each year and brings life to his crops.
We're going to all have to adjust to kind of a new frontier as far as water availability and from what we've been used to.
After nearly 20 years of drought in the Colorado River Basin and declining water levels at Lake Mead, Rhodes and other farmers are going to have to change the way they use water for agriculture, including changing the crops they grow to how they water the fields.
And what it does is it saves water consumption substantially.
The fate of his farm and many others are in the hands of a multi-state planning effort that will allocate water from the Colorado River and make millions of dollars available for more sustainable water infrastructure.
There's more water going out of Lake Mead than coming in.
Sarah Porter with Arizona State University's Kyle Center for Water Policy says that the Drought Contingency Plan helps solidify, at least in the short term, ways to protect groundwater in the Southwest.
The last thing we want is uncertainty. It's always better in water to kind of have control over your destiny.
The plan goes through 2026, but in the long term, experts say that farmers like Rhodes will have to wean off Colorado River water and implement more sustainable practices.
All of those farms at this point have to be efficient in order to still be in business today. And so the management of that infrastructure after it's been approved will be enough to carry them through for quite some time.
Arizona has had a long history of being able to plan for the future, and this is just another part of that.
And these are our fields on both sides of the canal here.
A&B Farms has already begun thinking ahead. Leveling some cotton fields to reduce water is a small price to pay for a more certain farming future.
I've got a 6-year-old son that loves coming to the farm every Saturday. My hope is that there'll be water and then we'll be able to be doing this when he's old enough to kind of get into the business.
In Eloy, Lillian Donahue, Cronkite News.
Pickleball is swinging to be one of the fastest growing sports in the U.S., and the city of Tempe is keeping up with the demand.
As Blaine McCormick explains, the sport is as fun as it sounds.
It may be just a construction zone, but in a few months, this concrete slab will be this, courts for pickleball.
We have a lot of residents that are asking for pickleball courts. We have a lot of our residents that play pickleball, that love pickleball. It really is a community that's growing.
According to a 2018 report from the Sports and Fitness Industry Association, over 3 million Americans participated in pickleball, an 11.3% rise from last year.
I just have so much fun playing it. I've played lots of other racket sports for the last 30 years, but I'm having more fun playing pickleball than I've ever had playing any other racket sport.
Pickleball is growing in popularity that even I'm going to get in on the action. And especially with this sport, it's easy to maneuver. And the best thing is, pickleball is adaptable for everyone to play, but I might need some more practice.
I was playing in Bend, Oregon a couple years ago. This gentleman resurfaced a tennis court and changed into a pickleball court, and now all his neighbors are playing, including when we were there, we saw one guy wearing an oxygen tank on his back playing pickleball.
When the project is complete, the Tempe Sports Complex will feature 8 public pickleball courts, including 2 designed for players with disabilities. Quillard says the total cost to the city is $708,000. In Tempe, Blaine McCormick, Cronkite News.